Then.
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome to Over It with Michelle Kinney, JoJo from Jersey. We are here with you guys with a really special episode. There's a lot going on, as there always is, and we like to try to mix it up sometimes because yes, there's a lot of things that we're over, and we're going to talk about that. But we also have a special guest with us today for a little bit of a reprieve because how could you possibly not love the Golden Girls? We're going to talk a little Golden Girls today because even though it was like 33 plus years ago that the Golden Girls went off the air, we all grew up with that. And there's still so much about that show that is relevant to today, especially for women. And Julie really was the one who started comparing our ages to the freaking Golden Girls. And Michelle's not there yet, but me, Joe, and
I'm
Julie,
like not far behind. I mean,
yeah, but you're still a good enough ways away that you don't have to think about it. But we're like, wait, what?
Actually, Michelle is, I think, the age that Blanche was supposed to be on the show, which is absurd.
42.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Remember when she thought she was pregnant? Like, remember?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. So we have a really special guest who has an amazing podcast, and he's an author and he's fabulous. And we met him at the Webbies and struck up the conversation. And he is with us today, and that is the one and only Patrick Hinds. Patrick, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.
Oh my God, we're thrilled to have you. When we saw you at the Webbies, you actually didn't care about us. You were thrilled about Laura Bell Bundy, who is on the Seneca Project advisory board. Our American Girl song that we won our Webby, I had my Webby hat on, my little pin, that we won the Webby for was her song. And she was with us there to celebrate. And you saw her in Beeline. It was like, is that Laura Bell? And we were like, we're chopped liver.
We were very nervous. We were so excited to be at the Webbies. We didn't even know we were nominated for a Webby. And I'll tell you why. Because when we submitted, we used my email address, and I just kind of go into a fog sometimes and don't check my email. We didn't even know we were nominated. And the day the winners were announced, my husband was like, oh, let's see who won Webbies. And he's like, we won a Webby.
That would be you.
That we were so nervous to be there, and we were so excited, and we were at the cocktail hour. So it was my husband, who's my business partner, and Natalie, who runs all of our business behind the scenes, and we're all such like theater gays.
Yeah.
And we were like sort of like milling about, like looking for people to talk to. We saw Laura Bell Bundy, who I'd met many times back when I was making theater podcasts, and I wouldn't expect that she would remember me, but we saw her, and we were like, is that her? Is that her? And she was wearing this red pantsuit.
Yes.
And Natalie was like, oh, look what she's wearing. That's got to be her.
Yeah.
So I just like casually walked over to her, and I was like, hi, there's a bunch of gays over there that are obsessed with you if you want to come and say hello. And she like came right over.
She's like, my people. I was standing there. She's like, oh my God, I found my people. And I'm like, this is amazing.
So
she
good.
was amazing. She talked to us for like the rest of the night. She's just an icon. We're obsessed with her. But it was so amazing to meet you all too and find out the work that you do and her working with you. It was kismet.
Well, we're thrilled that you were able to join us today, and you didn't have an opportunity to meet Joe at the Webbies with us because Joe was at the freaking Knicks game that night when when the Knicks were still something to root for. So, but
everywhere.
We're all here together now. And
yes.
like I said, Patrick is the co-host of the Deep Dive Golden Girls podcast, where you and your co-host, who is another fabulous Broadway maven, nominated for Death Becomes Her this year, right?
Yeah, so it's Jennifer Samard. She is the co-star of Death Becomes Her.
She's so outrageously talented. It's crazy.
She's so amazing. It's her third Tony Award nomination. She's just everywhere. She's the one, if you've been on TikTok for 2 seconds and you've heard that viral sound, that was rude. That was really rude. That's her.
Oh, you can curse here.
You can say
okay. Really fucking rude. That's Jen. She's everywhere. Yeah, we've been making the podcast for I think maybe 5 or 6 months now. We are obsessed. We built this incredible community. We call our listeners our cheesecakes. So we built this incredible community of cheesecakes, and it's really one of the funnest things I've ever done.
So what was the impetus? What made you to wake up one morning and say, I know, I want to do a Golden Girls Deep Dive podcast?
You know, it's funny. I've been wanting to do a Golden Girls podcast for years and years. I've been making a true crime podcast called True Crime Obsessed for almost 10 years now with my co-host Jillian. And I'd done other things, you know, we sort of the TCO is our main thing. We both kind of have projects on the side. And for years I've been wanting to make a Golden Girls recap podcast, and it just kind of seemed like the right time. And, you know, Jen was the first person I thought of, and I texted her one day and I was like, I knew she was about to go into craziness for Death Becomes Her, but I was like, do you want to make a Golden Girls podcast? I'm like, before I could even get through the text, she was like, yes, oh my goodness, yes. And you know, we just wanted to do something extra. We didn't want to do just a regular recap. What we do is we do a recap. We're going episode by episode in order from the beginning, but we also have a full-time researcher. His name is Jess, and every episode is like jam-packed with like trivia and little known facts, or we'll get like a deep dive on like a topic they talk about in the episode that we don't know anything about. So it's a fun and funny recap with a little bit extra.
So I have a question about this. Well, first of all, let me just say this. When I was pregnant, which was, you know, over 13 years ago now, all I did was read true crime books to the point where I was like, am I going to give birth to like a serial killer? Because other people crave steak. I crave true crime. Don't know why.
Still to this day, true crime is the hottest thing out there.
And Patrick, I feel like you were one of the first, right? I mean, we were one early, of the OGs. Yeah.
There was definitely a good slate of shows that came before us, like notably Serial, which was sort of the thing that made everybody a podcast listener. But yeah, we were pretty early on.
You have 300 million views, downloads, is that right?
Yeah, that number is probably closer to 400 million now. We've got, you know, something like we've almost 400 episodes on our regular feed, then another 400 episodes on our Patreon feed. And so between the two, we have pretty close to 400 million downloads.
That's amazing.
I live for true crime when I do long trips. Like the guy, everybody knows that when my husband and I drive to Florida or whatever, I have to have an escape from politics. So it's theater, music, sports, and true crime for the long podcast. And now that I know about yours, it is added to the list.
I know.
Yeah, well, and we do, you know, True Crime Obsessed a little bit different. We recap true crime documentaries. So we sort of tell the true crime case by recapping the documentary covering the case. Yep. And we started it back before all the streaming services. So we started it back when there was like a finite number of, you know, documentaries to cover. We thought we were going to run out. And then, you know, all of a sudden Netflix went streaming, then Hulu, then Max, then, you know, Discovery, and now, I mean, every week we've got a calendar of documentaries that'll get us through literally the next decade. And we always say that's not necessarily a good thing. Stop murdering each other, and I will go back to bartending next week. I'd be thrilled to go back to bartending if it meant there was no more murder.
So I got to tell you, my husband was on Dateline because he was the attorney for a really high profile true crime situation. So I don't even know if you maybe.
Which one?
You know Michelle Lazinski?
It sounds familiar.
She took her son in 1991 to a fair in New Jersey, and she said she went to get a Coke and he was gone, and they found his body like 8 months later. And did she do it?
Yes.
My husband was her lawyer, and she was convicted, and he finally got her off. He got the Supreme Court to overturn her conviction. So Dateline did a whole thing about it, and so you need to do a show about this because it's an incredible.
That's a really famous case.
Yeah, but it was actually a very high profile case in New Jersey. But I want to talk to you about the Golden Girls because the way this all came about, just so you know, is I turned 52 in April. And I said to these women as I was about to turn 52, out of nowhere, holy shit, I think I'm older than Blanche.
Yeah.
Not Blanche on the show.
No, it's
because she was right. She was older.
I think I'm older than Rue McClanahan was when she started the show.
I always get these numbers confused, but Rue was the youngest. Estelle Getty, I think Rue was 50 when they started.
Oh,
then Estelle Getty was the second youngest. She was like, then the other three were right around 60, 61.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Jen, my co-host, says her age on the show all the time, so she won't mind me saying it here. She's 54. Yeah. And I mean, my God, if she isn't, I mean, like all of you, the most like beautiful, like nobody. I mean, I'm 47. I think people don't look their ages anymore.
No. No, we
Or at
don't.
least what we think of it. Like there's a picture of B. Arthur in rehearsal for Mame with Angela Lansbury in like 1978. She looks older in that picture than she does on the Golden Girls. She looks older.
And Angela Lansbury looked the same age for like 4 decades. Like,
What
let's
is
be
that
real. Like, she always looked the same.
Yeah, and Betty White too, frankly. I mean, like all the way back, Betty White always looked like Betty White. Just her age.
I just want to bring it back to B. Arthur just really because I die. So
I know. What's the beef? I want to know what the beef is.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were like her little staffer for the day for an event or something, right? And like so you spent a day with her, but if I remember correctly from what I was reading, that the more you tried to get her to like you, the more she hated you.
Yeah. So this is a chapter in my book. I'm on tour right now. I'm doing a 40-city tour.
Oh my gosh.
With this one-man show. And it's an hour long, and it's a mashup of 2 stories from my book, which is our daughter, who we adopted through foster care when she was 6 days old, coming to us. And a night that I spent with B. Arthur when I was in college. When I had lied to everybody at school, say I had gotten a job as an internship on a high-profile like morning radio show, and I lied to all my friends saying that I was meeting all these celebrities all the time and just like making up these dumb stories. And so when it was announced that B. Arthur was going to come to our school to receive an award, they were like, "Oh, well, you'll have to be your host and guide for the weekend because you're like a celebrity whisperer." And I had never met a famous person ever in my life, but I had told them that I was like dealing with famous people all day, every day, like that was my life and my internship. And so B. Arthur came, and I met her at the airport. We took a limo. She hated me on sight. And I was like, Golden Girls obsessed. I was B. Arthur obsessed. She was my first famous person ever. So I was like famous person obsessed. My sister was with me, and like she wanted to stop for dinner on the way back, and just every single thing I did was the wrong thing. Every single thing I said was the wrong thing. And once we got to the restaurant, she started drinking. And B. Arthur was a drinker.
What was her drink of choice?
She would drink a double absolute citron vodka neat.
Oh.
So it's like basically 4 ounces of warm
vodka. That's disgusting.
Yep. And she would just kind of throw them back.
She was big. She was not a little. She could,
well, no, and I mean it explains the alto voice also. I mean, she's like really reaching for it with the double.
Was she chain smoking while she was drinking?
No, you would think. I don't think she smoked, but I mean, my God, she just hated me. And like that's the story. Is just kind of the whole night of me doing something and it's wrong, and me doing something and it's wrong, and getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's a very, very, very funny story in hindsight. In the moment, I just wanted to die.
I bet
it didn't change your love for the show. It didn't change.
No.
The irony, how it comes full circle, right?
Was she like a Dorothy in real life? Like, because Dorothy was pretty surly. Like, was that what she was? Yeah. Was she kind of like playing herself?
Way surlier. I think that Dorothy at least had some social graces, and obviously B. Arthur did too. But I think when it came to like a peon like me, she didn't care. She just. And I've met people since who have had experiences with her, who upon reflection can say the same thing, which is like, the more I wanted her to like me, the less she was going to give me that. And so that was my big mistake, was I should have just been cool and professional, which had I been meeting celebrities all day long, like I was telling my friends I was when they handed me this job, I think I would have known to do that. But
who did you invent? Who was like your celebrity that you invented that you told your friends you met that you never?
There's a couple. The first one was Jennifer Lopez, because she was really big at the time, and I invented this story
on the six.
Exactly, that
big
she
in more ways than one.
To promote her ass. Yes, and I was sent to the lobby to greet this whole big elaborate. Another one was Gwyneth Paltrow, that she always liked to bring donuts and bagels to these morning interviews, and that I was like, well, why don't we just walk to the Dunkin' Donuts and get donuts and bagels? And we did just lies.
Oh my God!
Lies.
Did you ever get caught? Did you ever get caught?
No,
You're
it
caught
wasn't until
now.
I wrote the
my
book that a
God.
lot of my friends were like, girl, you made those stories up. And I was like, I did. I
First of
don't know
all, I would have
why.
busted you in that Gwyneth Paltrow lie in 2 seconds because I know somebody who worked on SNL who said of all the guests on SNL who were ever there, the only one that was absolutely awful to everybody and certainly would not be bringing bagels and donuts was Gwyneth. Not good.
I mean, I'm actually not surprised by that.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard.
That
I
story
saw
was
her.
inspired by the one celebrity at the time who actually did come into the studio for an interview was the singer Meredith Brooks. She sang that
Yeah,
I'm
bitch.
a bitch,
Bitch,
I'm a
yeah.
lover,
Oh,
remember that one? And
Mhm.
she actually did come in with donuts and bagels for everybody. So I just took that story and put it on Gwyneth Paltrow.
But back to B, because I just learned from watching an interview of yours that she did not get along with Betty White, right?
Yeah.
They hated each
Yeah.
other.
Right? Yeah. She called her a teacher's pet, right?
Yes. And it, what we've heard is that B like really she didn't she came from the theater. She came from Broadway and apparently didn't really respect people who didn't have theater. And Rue had a big theater background. Rue had been on Broadway. Obviously Estelle Getty, her only big credit for the Golden Girls was doing Torch Song Trilogy on Broadway when she was, in her 60s. But Betty White, despite the fact that she'd had this like long storied sitcom career, she was like known for doing game shows and quiz shows and
Right.
talk shows and would sort of like laugh with the audience in a way that B never would. And I think that all of that combined just sort of drove B crazy.
But it's like the chemistry between those two is probably more electric than anybody else on the show. I
It's
mean, the
funny 'cause
way that Dorothy would go after Rose. I mean, it's just, it's perfect. It worked.
And
It
when you
worked,
watch
honestly.
it, like when you watch it with a critical eye, you can kind of see there's warmth between the characters, but
Yeah.
it feels put on. There are moments where where B has to like slap a bug off of Rose's face, and it like she hits her, and you're like, oh my God. And it's like even in the episode like where Rose moves out, like Blanche, Rue McClanahan as Blanche is like devastated, and Dorothy, B. Arthur as Dorothy is kind of like, meh, you know what I mean? Like you can sort of feel that there isn't a lot of warmth between them.
Wait, Rose moved in with those other ladies in that condo who one of them
Don't get me
asked
started.
for a
I-
volume or something.
It was
like,
Steph and Liz, and I went on a monologue for a half an hour about how Steph is just such a mean, bad person. Has probably killed people. Like,
oh my God,
they were so mean to her.
The scene where you're talking about how the one comes home and then she's sitting in the chair and was like awful. I was dying because I'm like, she's like, it's Stephanie.
It's Stephanie. She corrects her. Then she asks Rose for hard drugs. I'm like Stephanie, please. You need to look inward, ma'am. You need to look inside yourself.
Can I ask you like the most sensitive question of all?
Please.
What did you think about the Golden Palace, the spin-off?
So, I mean, I never really watched it. Like, I did watch it when it was originally on. I remember, like, the Golden Girls, I've seen, every episode 1,000 times. I think that when I was probably 12 or whatever, and the Golden Palace came out, I watched it. And it was just bad, like, one of the things, we were talking to Marco Panette, who is a co-writer on Death Becomes Her, but he was also a writer on Golden Palace. And Mark Cherry, who, famously created Desperate Housewives. He got his start on Golden Girls and on Golden Palace, and we just did an interview with him as well. And there was a couple of really essential things missing. Like, for example, B. Arthur didn't do Golden Palace, and it was that foursome without her. It was just really hard to do, and also moving the location from the house, which we were saying sort of became like a fifth character. Now they're in a and the house was so warm, right? It had like the kitchen where they would have their cheesecake, or the living room where they would have, or the lanai where there were so many dinner parties or whatever, and you felt like connected to the foursome because of the house. And then to take them out of the house in that hotel that felt generic and sterile, it just didn't have that same warmth. And they're just it's so interesting how you would have thought that you couldn't do anything to sort of break the magic spell of the Golden Girls. But as soon as you took them out of the house and you took away one of the characters, it just didn't work anymore.
And then they added the kid. I was like, the kid's not even like
Cousin Oliver comes along, it's the death knell of Bernie.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean,
They
I don't
added
even
the kid and then
remember
they
it.
fired him.
Oh,
The kid didn't even make it through all. I think it was only 9 episodes. The kid didn't even make it
Right.
all
I
the
mean,
way
they brought the
through.
kid in. The Cheech Marin like worked at I know
Yep.
I know way too much about this. The Cheech Marin came in. He was and then there was Don Cheadle, who was like the
Don
manager
Cheadle.
of the whole place. And I remember this coming on because I remember they went on some talk show and they made cheesecakes together. And I remember my mom taped it for me because I was at school, so I could watch it when I got home,
Oh
and
yeah.
being like so excited. And but again, like it just didn't have that same like spark.
Yeah.
And Sophia Stalgetti, obviously, they tried to pair her a little bit more with the kid too, because they were trying to make that
Yes.
happen, and like that
Yep.
wasn't funny either. And
No.
so just some things are meant to just kind of end when they ended.
Is it because B.
What
Arthur?
was the year? What were the years of this? I don't remember this at
like
all.
right
It was
after.
93. Yeah. It
Yeah.
Oh,
ended
that's
in
why.
92, and then
Okay.
93
I was in
was the Golden
college.
Palace.
Yeah, I was in
Yeah.
college, so I was too. I
Sarah,
wasn't.
I was 2. So what does that say about me?
Yeah, but I
Very well.
I
I
wasn't
was
watching.
11.
Yeah.
Yeah, shut up, Michelle. Is it because B. Arthur's contract was up and she decides to leave the show? Is that what
No,
happened?
well, she just, she's described the Golden Girls as not a happy time. She's
That
going
is
through a
so
divorce, and
wow, yeah.
it's really, I think that she was just kind of tired and kind of ready to be done. And I think that she really did. It's interesting talking to the people who wrote for the show, because they were saying Susan Harris, who created it, I think she left after season 3.
Mm.
And they were saying that, like, to them, the show wasn't as good after that, that they started to recycle storylines. I don't know a single person who feels that way. I've never met
No.
a fan, but I do think living in that world, working in that world, I think they started to feel it wasn't as fresh. It really was lightning in a bottle. Like the Golden Girls was I mean, nobody really remembers this, but the Golden Girls was the first time 4 women and
Yes.
4 women of a certain age
Yeah.
were the leads of a show, and it was nobody expected it to work, and it was such a mega hit
Yeah.
that I really think that, like, B. Arthur wanted to preserve the legacy,
Yeah.
and so she did, and it was her decision to leave, and I think those were the factors.
And it was
back
so
to that
ground.
legacy. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry,
I was
go
going to say, Michelle, I think we're going to say the same thing. It was so groundbreaking and back
Yeah.
to that legacy because it set up so many
Yeah.
other shows. I mean, here we are, 4
Yeah.
women on Mars, but like it set up other shows like Sex in the City. Like people don't really think about it in that context, but it really was
Yeah.
a groundbreaking
It's
show.
true. Like when you think about like Designing Women came, I think, the next year.
Yeah.
And then you think about shows like Sex in the City and Girls, like anything that has all and like
Even
the
the black
archetype-
version, Girlfriends, is
Yes.
definitely was inspired
Yes.
by the Golden Girls.
And I mean that show is so iconic. People love that show.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean the archetypes of the women, sort of like the sort of like the strong bossy one, and then like the silly slutty one, and then like like the kind of dumb one, and it's it's so, and I say slutty because that's what they say, but we would say like sexually empowered,
Right.
Yeah.
And, which is I think the more accurate way of looking at it.
Well, and speaking of like the sexual empowerment and all that too, it's just beyond just it inspiring or like or paving the way for other shows. They took on topics on that show that nobody was doing. I mean, it was the 80s. You had 4 middle-aged women living together and tackling the AIDS crisis, talking about homelessness, sex, I mean, drug abuse,
pregnancy.
Right.
Remember
There
the
was a
thing?
yes,
Talking
pregnancy. There was so
40
much.
years
The
ago.
Cold War. Remember when Rose wrote the letter
Immigration.
to yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there was a whole episode with Mario Lopez where he was going to be deported, like
Right.
and they took on like immigration. Like it was, the AIDS episode. It's, looking back on it now, the AIDS episode feels a little silly, but like, they were all of them were such staunch LGBTQ activists.
Right.
But what was shocking to me, we learned from Stan Zimmerman, who was a writer on season 1 and who was gay. And this was 1985. He and his writing partner were warned not to be openly gay on the set because it wasn't necessarily, the producers weren't necessarily hospitable to that. And like there's a story that Stan Zimmerman told us that like in the first week or two, Estelle Getty, it's such an incredible story. Estelle Getty was a woman living in Queens who for 20 years was doing the equivalent of community theater in New York all through her 40s and 50s, and really wanted to be an actor. I don't think she had any, she met Harvey Fierstein because they were both doing basically unpaid work at a downtown theater called La Mama that is still there.
Mhm.
And La Mama produced Harvey Firestein's classic Torch Song trilogy. And it's a crazy story how that came to be. He basically made a deal with the woman who owned the place that if he would come and be her assistant, because her assistant died, he was gay and he died in a bathhouse fire.
Oh, wow.
And she needed an immediate replacement and asked him to do it. And he said, I'll do it as long as you'll promise to produce my next play, because he couldn't get La Mama to produce his work. And she said, fine, it's a deal. And then his director said to him, tell her it's a trilogy. And he's like, I don't know how to write a trilogy. And the director was like, just write one at a time, but tell her it's a trilogy. And so he did. And so she agreed to produce his trilogy. And so it was kind of an autobiographical story of this like young gay man coming to terms with his sexuality and his relationship with his family and his relationship to the world. And he was trying to write about his relationship with his mother, and Estelle Getty, who he knew because she was also doing plays at La Mama, said to him, write a mother character and I'll do it with you. And that was so this off Broadway play called Torch Song Trilogy premiered and didn't get very good reviews. Then they added the third play with Estelle Getty. All of a sudden people loved it. Then it went off Broadway. Then it went to Broadway.
Oh, wow.
And won a whole bunch of Tonys. And then it went on tour. And that was when Estelle Getty took it on tour to LA, was when the Golden Girls producers saw her and brought her in for the role
and
of
launched a legend, launched a legendary character.
The thing about Estelle Getty is that she felt so a part of the LGBTQ community because of the work that she had done for 20 years off Broadway.
Right.
And so when she met Stan Zimmerman and his writing partner, he tells the story about her coming up to him and saying, hey, come with me. And they ran behind the set where nobody could hear them. And she said, like, you're one of us, meaning you're like, she wasn't gay, but you're one of us. Like you're with the gay people who she like considered herself a part of the community. And she was like, you're safe with me. And it's this beautiful story. But like, you think of the Golden Girls as being this iconic show beloved by the gay community, but it wasn't really safe to be out of the closet on that set, which is wild.
You'll be glad to know that there are a bunch of our viewers who've actually seen Torch Song Trilogy either off Broadway or on Broadway.
Yes.
So
they did a reboot of it a couple years ago with Michael Urie, and I mean there's a movie version of it with oh God, why can't I think of her name now?
Harvey Weinstein, sorry, that's bad.
Different Harvey.
Yeah.
Harvey, but he did it.
Yes. And the woman who played the mom, oh my God, she's so famous. I can't think of her name now. But yeah, Harvey Firestein's, I think his Instagram profile, I think the first line of it is not Harvey Feinstein, not Harvey.
No, I'm so sorry, Harvey Firestein, because you're a totally different, much more amazing guy. I know we don't have me for much longer. Is there anything that you're over in your life that you want to vent about?
You know, the one thing that I always think about, oh God, this is going to be so like petty and stupid, but you know what I'm really over? I'm really over ice cold butter that they serve to you at a diner when you order toast.
Yes,
right? So
I can relate to this.
Yes,
I can relate to this.
Your pancakes and eggs, and you just want that buttery toast, and they give you the dry toast and the butter from the freezer, and you're trying to spread it on the toast, and you're just ripping the toast. My husband's like, just hold it in your hand and make it warm. I'm like, it's not the same. It doesn't work that way. And by the time you get it warm enough to spread on the toast, the toast is now cold.
Toast is cold. This you know what? I'm 100% with you on that. It reminds me also of the Curb Your Enthusiasm episode when they're at the country club and you have to have toast with eggs.
Yes.
And Larry David was like, and they were talking, they're like, because they're all New Yorkers, and all of us are either from New York or New Jersey. It's actually 3 of us are New Jersey. Michelle's the New Yorker, and you, but we all, it's a similar culture. And he's like, you got to have toast with eggs. Like that's not even like a not like that's like non-negotiable.
It also
it's true. It is not. It's
so true.
I still when I'm traveling on my tour, I am constantly getting like my eggs and my toast.
Yes.
It reminds me of the birdcage too, because I cannot butter toast not one time, not ever in my life without saying I pierce the toast. I am so on edge every time I'm buttering toast that I'm like, don't pierce the toast. Don't pierce.
Was that Agador who said that?
Cold. It was Nathan.
Yes,
Nathan.
yeah.
It was Agador who said that, right?
Yeah.
I pierced the toes.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. And so
Yes.
now whenever I butter toast, I'm like, don't pierce the toast. And cold butter, it forces your hand. It forces your hand. It
Oh
needs
my
to be
gosh.
adjusted.
It's
Right,
true.
right.
It's
Well,
true.
Patrick,
Well-
where can people find you? And also, you said you're on tour, and I saw you're
Yes.
coming to Washington, and you will be
Yes.
in New York. So I'm trying to figure out whether we can do a girls' trip to come see you in New York,
Ah.
or whether I'm going to see you in DC. Well, we're going to
Yes.
figure it
Well-
out. We are going to come see you.
Come to my New York show. It's June 26th. It's Pride weekend. It's
soon.
like a kickoff to Pride weekend. It's going to be so amazing. But you can get all the information on my tour and tickets. It's at patricktours.com. And you can find me on Instagram. It's Patrick Hinds _ and it's HINDS_.
And
Fantastic.
I just want to say just one thing really quick, Patrick, is that when I was a kid, as we all were at one point, but especially at the end of the Golden Girls, when it was airing on TV, plus it was on syndication, at least where I lived, like 3 times a day, I would sometimes watch it 20 times a week. And it was like the early 90s. I didn't know that anybody else I knew liked the Golden Girls until I went to theater school. And I started to meet a bunch of gay guys for the first time in my life. And I was like, did you watch the Golden Girls? And I remember one of my friends saying, like, duh, like obviously every gay man does. And I was like, wait,
Totally.
really? Are you serious? I had no idea. And so from then on, I've always found and realized that Golden Girls will always bring me to the best people. And
Yes.
so I'm so glad that you're here today because, it's the thing that bonds us and it's kind of the litmus test for if somebody's cool. So I'm
100%.
just so glad to know
Okay,
you, Patrick.
wait a minute. I concur 1,000% because also theater brought Michelle and I together at our old place, and that bonded us, and the rest is history. But
Yeah.
since
Oh my
we're
God.
talking about that, we have to take 1 minute because we cannot have a fabulous Kay like you who loves theater and not ask you about the Tonys real quick because they're coming up. Okay. How do you feel about the Patti LuPone, Audra McDonald feud? And is it going to be Audra or Nicole for the Tony? Sunset
Well, I
Boulevard
would
or
love it to
Gypsy?
be Jen, if I'm being honest. I want it to be Jen. But the
Right.
Audra Patty thing, like, look, I called this like 3 weeks before it happened. I was like, Patti LuPone has a real bad attitude. A real bad,
She's
and
a little unhinged too. I've
she's
met
an
her a few times.
icon. She's a legend. I
Yeah.
grew up. I mean, I did Evita when I was in high school. It changed my life. I love her
Yeah.
so much. But
No
like,
question
I
that
said
she's
this,
a legend, but
a bunch of my gay friends were like giving me like they weren't happy that I was called, but I'm like I would cross the street to avoid her, and
Wow.
I'm glad that she got called out. I'm glad that she got called out. Now that said, I think that Patti LuPone made I was like, she's never going to apologize. This is it for her.
Mm-mm.
She made a pretty good apology, in my opinion. I think that Keisha and Audra are icons and legends, and I think that they have handled this all with class. I hope that they will come together. I would love to see some sort of public coming together, sort of like, bringing the worlds together and moving on in a very pretty, Patty says she's very committed to doing the work that people are asking her to do. I hope that she will.
why. When you have 500 of your people signing on to a letter condemning you, supporting Audra, that's what whoever her management team is, her people were like, oh no, you have to apologize now. These are your people and coming out.
However, and I'm going to say something very controversial here because I agree with everything you said. That email that went out from Keisha about the microaggressions and all that other stuff, I thought was nonsense. And I will say that I thought it was a little overboard, and not that she should have responded the way she did, but I think the original email was a little much.
So my mom and I had a similar conversation when I read. I'm like, is that what this is about? But I feel as though I'm sure there was more. That it wasn't just that, because I think it would be a lot to come out and just, if that was the only thing, then I would agree. But I think given Patti LuPone's history, there was probably a lot more going on there. And it was long overdue for her to finally kind of have to.
And if I may, like, if somebody says, I feel like something was racist, then everything needs to stop and we all need to sit down and talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether like people can have, people can have their opinions on all sides, but as soon as somebody says, I think something's homophobic, I think something's misogynist, I think something is racist, I think something is sexist, like we need to like sit down and talk about it,
Yeah, because we also don't know what else she said about the whole thing with them sharing the theater, and then like, that black musical was too loud kind of a thing.
Right.
Like, I mean,
Look, I certainly understand oh God, I don't want to like get in trouble, but I certainly understand the perspective of a black woman feeling like a powerful white woman told her to turn her music down.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. I think that Patti LuPone did it the right way. She did it the way that theater professionals are supposed to do. They go through they go through the theater management, and the management handles it, and then Patti sent flowers and Keisha had a reaction to that, which okay. I think that this is not the first time there's been an issue like this with those two particular theaters. There historically there's another example. Broadway musicals, in my opinion, the first musical that I saw that I was like, this is too loud was American Idiot. And ever since then, I feel like all musicals are so loud.
They are,
and it is a problem. These theaters are old, but I just think that they're just neat. Like anytime somebody says something like that, everything just needs to stop, and the adults need to get into the room and have a conversation. You know?
I agree.
Audra or Nicole, Sunset Boulevard or Gypsy? Because I have
if we're being controversial, we'll be controversial. I'm never getting over the hat. I'm never forgiving Nicole. I'm gonna go with Audra.
I mean, I saw Sunset Boulevard and I hated the production. I absolutely hated it, and I thought it was cold and disconnected, and I didn't feel anything. As talented as Nicole is, and she really, I mean, she sings the doors off, but I think she is overacting the part. And Audra is just, it was a 5-minute standing ovation when she sang the song, the big song. Win. And it's just, I was in tears, and you just felt you felt it. And it was like, I didn't feel that way with Sunset Boulevard, and you're supposed to. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just wanted to get another opinion.
I have to go. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. We kept you way too long. I'm so sorry. I couldn't resist. Please. I had to get the Tony question in.
I am so grateful for you having me on. This was wonderful. I will come back anytime.
Thank you, Patrick. We'll see you soon.
Bye, Patrick. Thanks.
Oh my God, we could talk to him all day.
All day.
So guys, can I just show you my new t-shirt? Can you see it?
Oh, yes. I have that.
Oh my God.
Right? The Gulf of Mexico. Very nice.
At the bottom. I don't know if you could see. I'm going to
No, what does it say in the bottom? I see it looks like a tortoise.
It's tortoise. It'll say stay salty and resist.
Oh, that's amazing.
I have 2 of those.
Did you have that made, or was that something you found?
Etsy.
Oh, that's awesome.
I got some pop up on Google. Yeah.
This is an Instagram ad that made its way to me. Actually, it's the first time I'm wearing it. It says the decline of society, sponsored by male podcasts.
Well,
that's not wrong.
I know. Oh my God.
Well, why don't we get to our overits, because I know that
Patrick was an absolute delight, and I'm grateful for everyone who stayed for our conversation with him, because like we said, we have to balance things out, because it's doomsday all the time, and we've got to have some balance and find some joy to keep ourselves sane. And Patrick is that ray of sunshine that we all needed this week, because it's just constantly been a shit show. And and that's why we're here to talk about our overits. So go ahead, Julie, you can start off. What's your overit this week?
I mean, my overit is the fact that Donald J. Trump is putting all of us in incredible harm's way here in ways that are not covered by the mainstream media with emergency and the emergent nature that they should be. To wit, The Atlantic had an incredible story this week about the fact that he uses his personal cell phone and picks up the phone. Like, everybody's got the number. He picks up the phone when he doesn't even recognize the phone number, because he assumes it's going to be some foreign leader trying to talk to him. And he gets off on the fact that he doesn't, that's a really bad way to put it. He really enjoys the fact. Well, maybe.
I say that all the time.
I don't even know what, I don't even want to.
I know, gross. You're right.
Yeah. But he's excited by the fact that he doesn't know who it is. Could it be Xi Jinping? Could it be Vladimir Putin? Could it be Tara Setmayer? I don't know. Like, this is literally his attitude.
I know.
And it's a phone number that is completely, yes, this is the article from The Atlantic. Thanks, Em. Completely unsecure. completely
Open to hacking. Yeah, open to it.
Emails, but her emails.
Exactly.
And her emails. And the White House is like, well, this anonymous, somebody made a comment from, close to him. The White House, of course, wouldn't put his name or her name to it. Well, we can't really control his phone habits. He really enjoyed, like, what the hell is going on? On top of the fact that there's another article, I believe this one from the New York Times, that I'm not sure, about the fact that Tulsi Gabbard, parentheses, Russian asset, is in charge of the president's daily brief. He has he's read it like maybe 11 times, some minuscule amount of times.
Oh, no. I don't think he's read it, Julie. I think he's only been presented with it.
12
times in the 100 days that he's been in office. He's only actually been briefed, whatever that means. I don't think he's reading shit. The actual briefing 12 times out of this is something that's supposed to be done daily. It's why it's called the PDB, Presidential Daily Briefing. Sorry, go ahead.
Wait a second. It gets even more absurd because they're now contemplating that he does not like to read. They just acknowledge, this is not a reader. Like, he's not a reader? What are we, like in third grade? Like, my son's not a reader. So I'm going to have him listen to this on Audible. They're going to literally try to get a Fox News. I mean, your head is going to spin when you hear this. A Fox News anchor to read this to him and have a Fox News producer produce it on a daily basis. This is what they're contemplating in order to make it look like a Fox and Friends episode, because that is what he consumes. Now, I have worked at Fox News, so I can say this. Not one of those fucking people, sorry, Dad, was in any position to be reading the president's daily brief, because that brief is top secret. This is the most sensitive information in our government. And if you have Fox News anchor, I don't know who they're going to choose, but I know all those guys, and believe me, none of them would pass the security clearance to walk into none of them. God only knows. Believe me, come talk to me if you think about their security clearances. But they're going to have somebody like that read this to him and a producer produce this. Like, what are we talking about here?
What?
Like, 10 people in the world are read in on what's in the president's daily brief, and it's nobody Fox should be one of them.
The fact that even has to happen. Where the fuck is Jake Tapper writing a book about this? That we have a president that is so ignorant and so childlike and juvenile and incapable of keeping a thought together or process it, or is uninterested in it, or whatever, inept, that he has to have it read to him like a child, because that's the only way you can get him to focus, is if you got somebody like a Tits McGee reporter from Fox News to keep his attention, to read it to him so he feels special. I don't get it.
And not to segue, and I don't mean to by any means, but about the Jake Tapper part of this is like Donald Trump was also writing on Truth Social, like in the same breath in the last week. I don't remember what day it is. I've been like super sick.
I think it was Monday.
Was it Monday?
You talking about the robot thing?
Yeah, he said that Joe Biden was assassinated in 2020 and then was a robot for like, this is the president of the United States is, wait, I'm sorry, what?
That's part of my over it. Yeah.
Oh, so anyways, I'll leave that to you then. But I mean, just I guess my point being is like Jake Tapper, I mean, he doesn't care. Like, he just doesn't care.
This is the original sin in plain sight. And by the way, Jake Tapper, you don't need to have anybody leak information to you for this book, because it's all out in the open.
Right.
Pretty much.
Just collate it.
And this is a repeat of the first season of this shit show, when he was infamously not reading them unless they included pictures of himself and things that praised him. And I remember, I think it was The Onion or maybe McSweeney's put out like the briefings on coloring pages at like Denny's, and it was like, which one, circle which one is like Kim Jong-un, and it was like little cartoon pictures of like world despots, and it's like, wrong, try again, like a crossword puzzle, like spelling out like nuclear. Like this is not new. They didn't cover it with the due diligence and responsibility then. And it's, again, original sin. This is how we've gotten to where we are now. And if I'm an American citizen that's not even dialed in, I feel like I would want to know that the guy sitting behind the Resolute desk is so incurious and so idiotic and so stupid and lacking in discipline that he can't sit and read something relating to our national security.
Well, it's like you've got one job.
You got one job.
You have one job, dude, as president, and that is to uphold the Constitution and protect this country from enemies, foreign and domestic. That's it. And the presidential daily briefing is basically the daily briefing that lets you know where those threats are and where those decisions have to be made. And that's like your one fucking job, dude. And he has no interest in it whatsoever. He has outsourced that to these other insane, incompetent people who have done nothing but weaponize it, have compromised our country. Jared Kushner got himself billions of dollars by reading it because it was Kushner who was reading the daily briefing. Jared Kushner was reading the presidential
was not
daily
allowed
briefing.
to be read in. If you remember,
right, he couldn't get a
national
security
security-
clearance.
Neither could
except
Ivanka.
they gave it to him.
They gave him to him
Yeah,
anyway
and
because the president has the ability to say, I don't care, give it to him. And because he had to change his SF-86 form or whatever it's called like 100 times.
Yeah.
In the meantime,
And by
this is the same person who's sharing. Sorry, in the meantime, the same person who's sharing disinformation in the tattoo picture of Abrego Garcia and disinformation with the South African graves. Like this is the kind of stuff and conspiracy theories from QAnon. This is the kind of stuff he's more beholden to. Maybe they should put the daily briefing in mashed potatoes and he can eat it that way because we only like to eat paper. So get him to
And
digest
just to add
information literally.
Yeah, just to add one more thing to this so we can move on. You know, I have a Substack about this today. They're all outraged, like Steve Bannon, outraged that Ukraine didn't give Trump a heads up about his, about their incredible attack on the Russian nuclear triad, right? Which they disabled 30-40% of the bombers that delivered this particular type of missile. It's amazing. And you have Steve Bannon going on a stupid podcast saying, we've got to, that's it, cut off all aid, stop the mineral deal. This is outrageous. They didn't tell Trump. Didn't tell Trump. This would have been a signal in 5 seconds. They'd all be signaling to each other the war plans that Ukraine was going to do. Trump was going to be on the phone with God knows who, Sean Hannity, talking Xi Jinping, for all we know, Vladimir Putin, warning them about this because he's a dope. If not worse, right? At best, he's a useful idiot for the Russians. At worst, he's much more. And they're outraged that nobody shared this with Trump. Nobody's sharing anything with us. Wake up.
No, nothing of value anyway. Nothing of value. Yeah, of course. Why would they? Why would they? Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset and is our director of national intelligence. Why would they share anything with our intelligence community at all?
They'd be stupid too.
Of course, unless there's some kind of shadow operations going on, like a clear and present danger type of situation where you've got some rogue folks at the CIA or whomever that are running operations that are, maybe helping our allies that the others don't know. I don't put anything past anyone. I read and watch way too many spy movies, so I don't put anything past anybody in this government anymore. But kudos to Ukraine, Slava Ukraini. What they did was fucking believable, and I'm in awe of their resilience and their strength, and they are admirable people. That is just amazing. And our friend and Seneca Project advisor Denver Riggleman just spent 10 days over there doing humanitarian relief, as did Officer Harry Dunn, who I was with on Monday. He just got back from Ukraine and part of that same humanitarian trip. And I was at the Jim Acosta town hall, the live town hall in DC. And I don't think anyone here was there in our comments, but it was like a packed house, amazing. And it was all the January 6th officers, Michael Fanone, Aquilino Ganell, Daniel Hodges, Harry Dunn. It had Aaron Parnas, me, Olivia Troy, and he had Miles Taylor. And then Jasmine Crockett was there. And as always, bringing the fire. And then they had federal workers there who had been impacted by Doge. It was a kind of a town hall style. Oh, and Rosie O'Donnell beamed in from Ireland, which was pretty cool. But like hearing the stories of these federal workers and what they've gone through and what Doge and Elon and this administration has done to these people who have been faithful servants, making our government run well, was infuriating. And more people need to hear those stories, and they need to see it. And yet they want to fight. They were like, we're going to stand up no matter what. There was one woman who was an Air Force veteran. She was working for the government. I didn't catch what agency. She was abruptly dismissed because of Doge and their bullshit. And then got a paycheck for $16. They can't, something I didn't know about these federal workers is that when the way that they dismiss them puts them in a weird limbo where they can't apply for unemployment and they can't apply for a new job because they're in like a weird government employee status that certain paperwork has to be release them from that. And because they fired all the HR people, or they put in people who don't know what they're doing, they're not processing these folks that were let go. So they can't even apply for benefits that they're entitled to. This poor woman had to go on food stamps. She's a single mother, had to go on food stamps in order to survive the last couple of months while these assholes are indiscriminately running around, dismantling our government and ruining people's lives. It's outrageous what's going on. So just wanted to give a shout out to Jim and everybody there. And it was a privilege to be there. It actually gave me an award, which I had no idea about, a Defending Women award that I just saw they put the town hall up, and I'm going to cut the speech and put it up. But I was shocked for that. I love Jim. He's the best. He's just a great guy. And to be around all those heroes, I was just humbled to be a part of all of that. So I'm inspired by them every day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Joe, why don't you tell us about your Over It? Because I think your Over It was segueing into mine.
I'll make it really fast. You said Joe, or did you say Michelle? You said Joe.
Joe.
Oh yeah. I'll make it really fast because it picks up on what you said, Julie. For sure. I has a clip. This was on CNN the other night. Michelle mentioned the conspiracy theory that Donald Trump, the sitting president of the United States, posted on his Truth Social. And do you mind playing that?
I mean, he used it to.
I don't know. I can't say whether he believed it or not, honestly.
Do you think the Democrats are conspiracy theorists? Nothing on Hunter Biden's laptop. Russia influenced the election. They were. I mean, come on. Both sides are definitely to blame. And when it comes to a robot, this would have been the worst functioning robot in history if Joe Biden was a robot. I mean, it must have been made and built in China at a minimum.
Your argument is definitely fair in the sense that Democrats do believe in conspiracies, although I'm not sure the two examples are the best ones. The best one might be the fake Melania conspiracy, which Trump actually denounced in a post on social media. He says that the conspiracy was that there were Photoshopped pictures of Melania claiming that it wasn't really her at his side. So that is also similar to the robot, I suppose.
You know, the
body double is the other one.
The country is asking.
Stop it right now.
I can't.
Stop it.
No.
First of all,
I hate that show so much.
It's trash. And Timu Scott Jennings, Sununu over there, his energy makes me want to punch a wall.
I always say he needs some like chamomile and vanilla and Xanax to calm down. The guy is always like lay off the caffeine or anything else. I don't know. He's ridiculous.
And I love how he cosplayed back when Nikki Haley was still in the race as sane, normal Republican, bullshit. Fuck you. Sorry, Julie's dad. But the thing that Abby did was the part that infuriated me.
Yes. I was listening to this. When we brought it on the thing, I was listening to this on the way home from the town hall, screaming at my car radio, like, what the are we kidding? It's fair. Oh my God.
Because some fringe element of the Democratic Party or whomever passed around this idea that there was a fake Melania, which was very funny with some trolling, whatever. I never trafficked in it. Who the fuck cares? But some fringe element of the Democratic Party created that conspiracy. It is not the same as the sitting president of the United States of America tweeting a meme or posting a meme saying Joe Biden is dead and died, was killed in 2020 and was replaced by a cyborg, by a robot. And there's no context. He doesn't give any indication that he doesn't actually believe this. And people listen to what that mofo has to say. But by normalizing it, by the false equivalency of, well, the Democrats said there was a fake Melania, stop it. Because again, back to Julie, this is the original sin. Trump being Trump is bullshit. Stop saying that.
Mm-hmm.
You need to call this out. This is unhinged. This is untethered from reality. This is 25th Amendment territory. And stop being like, well, because some people said blank, he gets to say blank. No, he doesn't. They are different standards. This is insane. And if it was anybody else, they would call it as such, but they are not doing that. So that is my over it. I am over normalizing, downplaying. Trump is Trump bullshit. Knock it off.
Who was the Democrat on that panel?
Amen. It looked like it was Maria.
Maria.
It was Maria Cardona.
And what's his name? The congressman from California, the Silicon Valley congressman.
Oh, Ro Khanna.
Ro Khanna?
Oh, well. He was next to next to Sununu. Yeah.
Right. And Maria was next to Shermichael. Yeah. I mean,
Ro
Maria
Khanna, Mr. I love Doge. I'll work with Doge.
Yeah.
We can't with him. I know he is the worst. And actually, I just picked up the new Vanity Fair. I have a Vanity Fair subscription, and I just opened it. And because Scarlett Johansson's on the cover, and I love her. And but also, there's a profile about Ro Khanna in there, and I was like, ugh. he's
why?
the worst.
Who cares?
I know.
It's
Who
boring.
cares? Like, seriously,
He's really trying to make it happen, and it's not. Sorry,
it's
Roe
not.
Like,
Not
you
gonna
can't make fetch happen.
Yeah,
You just
exactly.
can't.
Yeah, you cannot make fetch happen. But to your point, and I'm sorry I wasn't on that panel that night.
I know.
Because I got to tell you, when I saw that clip, when you sent it to me, my head exploded. This bullshit, as you said, false equivalency between some. I've actually never heard the Melania robot. Like I never heard that. You know why I never heard that? Because nobody I know is insane enough to say it. And you know why I also never heard that? Because the president of the United States, Joe Biden, never said it.
Exactly.
The man that CNN is portraying is a senile old man who should be put in the nursing home or put down like a dog.
Shady Pines, Ma.
Yeah, Shady Pines. Bringing you right back. The man who's doing Shady Pines is not tweeting out, as you said, Joe, these bullshit conspiracy theories, but the man who apparently is just fine because there's no books being written about his mental health,
right,
is saying that Joe Biden has been assassinated and now has been a robot for the last 4 years, which P.S., if that is true, then everything that Trump said about not feeling bad for Biden because he has cancer, because he's a horrible man, how do you reconcile that statement with the fact that it's a robot? And
Exactly. It's just they normalize the crazy.
Yeah.
I've said this for years and years. One of my classes at Harvard was called None of This Is Normal. Back 5 years ago now. Like it was the biggest issue. It was the normalization of his crazy, of his lying, of his indecency, of his corruption, of his malignant narcissism, of his mental illness, of all of that.
Yeah.
All of it. It's just been like, why the double standard? That's partially why we're here now.
Yeah. What's going on with Abby? She knows better. What is going on with CNN?
I mean, I don't know. They don't invite me back on. I haven't been on since I spoke up about the misogynist attacks on me. So,
well, you remember
they did reach out. They did reach out yesterday in a pinch to see if I was in New York, and I'm obviously not. I'm a DC person. That's where I live. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not available. You should try Julie Urginski. She lives in New York. I think it's fair to say they didn't reach out, did they?
They did. No, they reached out to get my dates for the next month or two, but they did not reach out about last night.
Okay, so that's good. We're not completely blacklisted. It's been a while, but
I don't know if I was blacklisted because I stuck it to Scott Jennings, and Scott Jennings, I think, does not like people sticking it to him. But
well,
don't be a guy.
I'm gonna refrain from any.
Yeah, I was like,
it was sitting right there. It was sitting right there.
I know. It's daytime. It's noon. It's a nice, lovely Wednesday afternoon.
We should do an Over It After Dark one day with drinks and fans, and it'll be a whole show.
OnlyFans, over at OnlyFans
with beverages, of adult nature.
Yeah. Unleashed.
Well, I have a heart out, but so I'm going to go really quick on my over it. So my over it this week it's kind of similar to this because it's the normalization of the mediocrity and all the other litany of things I just went down. What is going on with the level of incompetence with people inside this government that seem to not have any idea what their job is and what they're supposed to do, yet they have the responsibility for millions of lives? There are two examples that come up. The first one was this jackass that is responsible for the Social Security Administration. He's the Social Security Administrator, which is really, really, really important to tens of millions of Americans who rely on Social Security and those of us who are paying into Social Security. It's one of the largest entitlement programs in the entire government. And the guy that Donald Trump picked for it didn't know what the job entailed. Do you have the clip?
And it's about Social Security. And I'm really not. I swear I'm not looking for a job. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do? So I'm Googling Social Security. One of my great skills. I'm one of the great Googlers on the East Coast. But that is the headline for the Post. Great Googler in chief. Chief and Googler, whatever. By the way, I like to have fun at work. We're allowed to laugh. We're allowed to have fun. We're allowed to know each other's families. We're allowed to be normal. How's that? I'm like, what the heck's the commissioner of Social Security. First, nobody said we're calling it. It was about Social Security, so I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay, first
Does he
of
have
all,
that thing in his throat? That, like,
right.
people have, like, throat
Yeah, he
cancer?
sounds like he's chewing on like hardware. Like,
yeah,
what's going on?
What is that, right? What is that voice? He sounds like he's got marbles in his mouth, and he's like, he marbles in his mouth and a chainsaw. And then I don't know, was he sober? Because he didn't exactly sound like he didn't sound sober. And I don't know where this guy came from or what. But just listening to that entire thing, I was like, of course he sounds like that. And second of all, I'm just like, I'm cracking a joke. I'm gonna Google it. What's the Social Security Administrator? I just can't. It is such an insult to the millions of people who rely on Social Security and the people who put that program together and what it takes and requires to administer it well. Like, people's lives are hanging in the balance here, their livelihoods and what they depend on. We paid into this, and it's like, this guy is so flippant about it. I'm just going to Google it and find, I don't know what this is. And that's who Trump is, just handing out jobs. Yeah, you do that. You don't know what it is? I don't care. Google it. Like, this is bullshit, and we shouldn't put up with it. Now, what the more recent one is another one that's a little near and dear to my heart, because my family had a house in the Florida Keys for 20 something years. So we pay attention a lot to weather, to hurricane season, and to FEMA, because guess what? When there's a tragedy, FEMA is there to help people recover their lives. Well, the acting head of FEMA had no idea that there was such a thing as a hurricane season, which started June 1st, by the way. This guy was like, oh, really? And he said this on a staff-wide call, like with professionals at FEMA, which, by the way, they're trying to dismantle and defund and break it off into little pieces, into things, in like trying to outsource it or privatize it or whatever. And you still have so many people that are reeling from the floods and other hurricanes, and like North Carolina, Arkansas can't get FEMA help for, their disasters or their natural disasters since Trump came in. And this guy, we're getting into a hurricane season. We also dismantled the National Weather Service for the most part. They don't have forecasters. Kind of important when you are going into hurricane season, and they said there's going to be 10 named storms this year. Like, they're getting more intense and worse every year. I mean, this is bullshit. And I don't like, instead of talking about nonsense about Joe Biden and what happened 2 years ago, they need to be focusing on this, because people's lives are hanging in the balance. God forbid that, a storm comes through, we get another Katrina or another Irma or whatever. What the hell's going to happen now? It's not okay.
Did you see that Florida weather forecaster that talked about this and said, he didn't talk about the fact that the FEMA director doesn't know we have a hurricane season, which is insane, right? Because that's like beyond parody. But he talked about the fact, he told his audience, he was going back to Hurricane Dorian and what he was telling them then about how it was going to turn. And he was like, back then I was able to tell you that reliably. I was able to tell you that you shouldn't be, evacuating or whatever it was. I can't do that now. I cannot tell you with the same kind of certainty. And it's not even certain at that point. We are talking about life and death. And it doesn't just impact Florida, North Carolina. Obviously, it disproportionately does impact those southern states and Gulf states. But up in New Jersey, hello, we had hurricanes.
Yes.
Right? And we were. I remember watching every weather forecast like on pins and needles, and we needed that information. And they gutted NOAA by up to 40%. If you have fewer weather balloons going out, this information, when you take that and you couple it with what they've done to FEMA and the fact that they've appointed a freaking feral hamster to the job, I mean, this lives are going to be lost needlessly, and then people are going to suffer in the wake of these things. We've already seen this in Kentucky with those tornadoes. We've already seen him ignore Missouri. We've seen him ignore catastrophes, and people are not prepared. And this is just enforced fucking errors because of cruelty, incompetence, and an absolute abject lack of care. They don't care.
And lack of reporting, lack of putting it out there and making sure people understand what's going on and what the consequences are, because the media can't be bothered with it. They're too busy worrying about what happened with Joe Biden 2 years ago. It's absurd. And, enough is enough with that. But that's why we're here. So we're letting everyone know. And thank God for the European models.
Yeah. Just adding to that you saw that KGP is putting out her own book diagnosing what was wrong with Joe Biden in October. Yeah, we're doing more of that. When we have
she's going independent, right, Joe? She's no longer a Democrat.
Yeah, she's no longer a Democrat. She left the party. So and
I
now she's
can't.
writing this book. I can't
Yeah.
either.
People are
We
so
have a
deeply
catastrophe,
unserious.
friends. People are going to die, and we're writing books about Joe Biden.
And they don't
Like,
care. That's
they
the thing.
don't
These people
care.
don't care.
She got
Sorry,
a book
Michelle,
deal.
you
That's
have to
great.
do it.
And of course,
Oh my
the
God.
plug was that she left the party. Yeah. So
I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. I cannot. I
She
do-
sucks.
it's-
She's no Jen
it's-
Psaki.
I just can't. Michelle, did you
Sorry,
do your
it's
over it?
super
So I think you're up, right?
I didn't. I'll just say quickly. I've been sick since Sunday night, and so I kind of know what's been going on in the world, but kind of not. So I am over being sick, but even more than that, I'm really over people ignoring anti-Semitism in this country, and the danger that American Jews are in, more so now than probably any time, at least in my lifetime, it feels like. I'm not Jewish, but a lot of people I care about are, including Julie. And, there was a senseless attack against American Jews that were coming together to rally for the hostages in Gaza. And there's a crazy man who was throwing Molotov cocktails at them and set these people on fire, one of which was a Holocaust survivor. Silence is complicity at this point, at any point, but especially now. Silence is complicity with this. And it is not okay. Doesn't matter how you feel about what's going on there, or Bibi Netanyahu, who I think we can all agree is a monster and a fascist. It's a very complicated issue, and there's horrible, horrible, horrible atrocities happening in Gaza. That being said, it is not okay to stay silent in times of horrible atrocities. And if you have friends or people you care about who are Jewish, call them, ask them how they're doing. Because they're really, 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 really scared right now. So that is what I'm over, is people ignoring anti-Semitism in this country. And that's all I guess. And any group of people, by the way, I just want to say any group of people, but in particular, anti-Semitism. And especially when this White House and this administration is hiding behind it, like using it as a shield, when all of it's fake. All of it's fake. They don't
That's
give
the
a
whole
shit
reason
about
why
Jews.
they're That's why they're going after Harvard, claiming that Harvard was anti-Semitic and not doing no, stop it. Meanwhile, look at what you're actually doing in other places. You're right.
Can I say something about this, Michelle? And I did not know that this was going to be your over it, and I'm incredibly grateful to you, somebody who is Jewish. I just want to say something to people who I haven't looked at the comments because I'm not wearing my glasses, but when I've seen comments about this in other places, the default response on our side is, what about Gaza?
Yeah.
And we don't care about the people who are dying in Gaza. And first of all, I want to say that, yes, I do. And so do most people who are Jewish who I know. But I also don't think that needs to be the threshold for us to talk about why it's not okay to throw Molotov cocktails, why it's not okay to gun down 2 young Jews who were leaving a Jewish event. Yeah. They were not gunned down because of them supporting what's happening in Gaza. They were gunned down purely because they're Jewish. They were targeted the same way that people who are Black are targeted for the color of their skin, not because of any beliefs that they hold, the same way that Arabs were targeted after 9/11, not for anything, not for any beliefs that they held, because certainly no Arabs I know or people of Arabic descent were in support of what happened on 9/11, but they were targeted purely because they were Arabic and of Arabic descent, or Muslim descent, I should say, not just people who are Arabic, but certainly people of Muslim descent who are more broadly than just being Arabic. This is, I hate to say this because I've been telling my husband, who's not Jewish, who thinks I'm overreacting, which everybody who's not Jewish does. I feel like we're living in Berlin 1933.
Yes.
And I have said to him repeatedly that I think it's almost time to go, and he thinks I'm insane. And of course, he's never going to leave, and he doesn't see it that way. And of course not, because he's not of sort of Jewish descent, nor did he come from the place that I came from. But I also think that it always starts with the Jews. Always, throughout history, starts with the Jews. It does not end with the Jews.
Yep.
And American Jews do not have to account for Bibi Netanyahu's behavior in Gaza. to anybody. That's not our job. We are Jewish. We are not the leaders of the state of Israel. A lot of American Jews feel an affinity to the state of Israel. I am one of them. It does not mean we feel an affinity to the government of Israel as it is right now. But there is something within being Jewish, if you go to a Passover Seder, if anybody's been there, that understands that we always say in the Seder, this is a component of the Passover Seder, which commemorates the exodus of the Jews from Egypt next year in Jerusalem. We have a heartfelt connection to the land of Israel. So do people who have lived there for millennia who are Palestinian. I understand that. So do American Jews for the most part. The ones who don't are not my cup of tea, but nevertheless, none of us need to apologize for Bibi Netanyahu simply because we're Jewish. And that's what's going on right now.
That's right.
And every time you meet hate and violence like this with a but and or
Yeah,
but
that's
what
right.
about, you are emboldening more of this all over on every side, and that has to stop. We can all agree on the basic tenets that we should be protecting innocent life, right? Like this is not a binary choice where you have to say, well, what about Gaza? That doesn't excuse what's happening in Gaza. It doesn't excuse what happened in Boulder. We have to remember that's this part about going back to our humanity. That's the part that they so want to rip away from us, to disconnect us. We have more in common than we don't, and they want us to forget that. And there's such a basic level here. There were children, there was a Holocaust survivor. It is horrific. What is happening in Gaza is horrific. We can hold those two truths at the same time.
Exactly.
And unite on that front, as opposed to allowing them to continue to push that divide wider and wider, because in that space we have more violence and more chaos, and they seize more control. And it's like it's a tinderbox, but we have this time to actually use these things to unify us, which sounds insane, but that's the choice we have to be making right now.
Absolutely.
And just one more thing before we go. And Joe, your father, as you say all the time, was Lebanese. No more do you have to apologize for what Hamas did on October 7th, simply because you're of Lebanese descent or of Arabic descent. Then Jews have to apologize for what's happening in Gaza right now. I just want to end with one thing. I'm not going to be here next week. The reason I'm not going to be here next week is because I'm going to Israel. And the reason I'm going to Israel is because my son is being bar mitzvahed at the Western Wall. To me, I'm not religious at all, like in the least. I never had a bat mitzvah. This is not my cup of tea. We don't belong to a synagogue. But it was important to me after October 7th that my son, who is certainly not Israeli, get bar mitzvahed at, I'm about to cry here, but at a place that is the remnant of the temple in Jerusalem. And I just want people to understand the connection that people who are completely agnostic Jews, who as I said, I'm beyond not religious, feel to that part of the world, and understand that it doesn't mean that we support in the least the starving of Palestinian children and everything else that's happening over there, not in the least. But I want people to also understand that we don't need, as Jews, to apologize for it. It is not our responsibility to, we don't have a vote. If I voted in Israel, Bibi Netanyahu would not be the guy I vote for. Likud would not be the party I vote for. But I don't have to apologize for that simply because I'm Jewish. So I just want people to understand that. And I'm so deeply grateful to everybody who stuck with us. We started this off, I think, on a very wonderful note. And it was great to have Patrick here. I ended a little cry here, but thank you to everybody who joined us. And I guess the rest of you guys will see everybody next week. I will not be here for the next 2 Saturdays because I'll be flying back and forth. And I will not be here next Wednesday, but I will see you guys all in mid-June. So thank you for joining us.
Well, everyone is grateful for your heartfelt commentary on that today, because it's real world, it's real life, and I think you speak for a lot of people who are going through similar the emotion of what's happening, you know, and whether you're Jewish or not. Michelle's not Jewish, and look how deeply she feels that, because people that she loves and is surrounded by who are Jewish, she empathizes with them. We all have that empathy gene, and unfortunately, there are a lot of others who just don't. So it's important for us to all put that on display, and that's why we do what we do, and that's what makes us different from other shows. And on that note, safe travels, Julie, and thank you to everyone else who joined us today. We'll see you guys. We may not have a stakes tomorrow. It depends. I'm flying to LA because I'm giving a TEDx talk, which I've never done before. So depending on how it goes there, we may or may not do the stakes. Michelle may need to take the week off because she needs to recover. But Saturday, we'll see what happens with Coffee and Conversation. We got a lot going on, but just stick with us, follow us on all the socials, keep up with us, what we're doing. We're still here. And remember, silence fuels fascism. So stay loud. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.